Well, hello, you all, and welcome back. It is time for another little race preview. We just came off the triple header running through the Middle East, and now, after a week off, feels like forever, we are stateside at the parking lot Grand Prix in Miami around the Miami Dolphins Stadium. But before we get on to what we can expect around this Miami circuit, we'll have a chat a little bit about what we saw in Jeddah. A unique track, of course, lots of high-speed corners, not really anything low speed, so a unique kind of track to get around. But, as usual, start and work our way through the field. Oscar Piastri with McLaren, of course, the race win, qualified P2 behind Verstappen, had a very, very strong weekend all around, and was very smart to essentially play Max Verstappen's game into turn one. He got a great launch off the line, took the inside, and basically forced Verstappen to make the choice of whether to cede the position or to gamble with the stewards. So that was a real important part of his race, and he was one of the earliest drivers to stop and get off of the medium tire in the race and go onto the hards, but he did exactly what he needed to in that pit stop phase while Max ended up serving his 5-second penalty and got in and out, and also, made his way through the field quite nicely. A good overtake on Lewis Hamilton, kind of one of his highlight maneuvers. But really kind of just charged his way up to the front and then controlled the pace the rest of the way. So a very good day, weekend all around for Oscar Piastri. Lando in the other car, a crash in qualifying. Obviously saw him starting 10th, not ideal for a championship leader. He recovered well, got himself back up to 4th. However, we're still, I think, starting to see kind of the deficiencies in Lando's game. I would have liked to have seen him get all the way up to 3rd, but he really was stalled out, and this is something we've seen, time and again. He gets out-thought in wheel-to-wheel battle. In this particular occasion, it took him 3 laps to get past Lewis Hamilton. He had the much faster car on the much faster tire, but he was being out-thought. He was overtaking Hamilton, and Hamilton is letting him by in the final corner, knowing there was another DRS zone immediately after that down the front straight. Hamilton would just retake the position down into turn 1 and cost Lando a bunch of time over the course of the entire lap. Realistically, I think Lando needs to start coming into these battles with a mentality of where he needs to place the car. We saw it in Bahrain, where he was constantly trying to go around the outside of turn 1 and getting kind of shuffled off the track by the inside car. We know that's the way the rules work right now. But in this case, it took him 2 failures before the 3rd time he went, oh, maybe I shouldn't overtake Hamilton in the last corner. I should overtake him into turn 1 and then go through the rest of the track with building the advantage, which he had a substantial pace advantage once he got ahead. So things that still concern me about Lando Norris. He's quick. No doubt he's a fast driver in a fast car and is able to extract some great lap times out of it. But I think his head game, his mentality, both, in the car when it comes to wheel-to-wheel battle and being smart while being an aggressor and thinking of the clever things rather than just going, oh, I'm in a faster car, I will overtake him and then drive off into the distance. The field's close enough to where you still gotta think that. And then, of course, out of the car, he's usually very hard on himself. I think right now, and Oscar Piastri has taken the championship lead at this point. I'm kind of leaning towards Oscar to have kind of what it takes to be the champion, potentially over Lando Norris at this point. Oscar's shown that he's kind of sorted out some of his tire wear issues and has handled the car well. We'll see, of course. We're only, 5 races into the season now? So we will have to find out and see what it is. Next up, of course, finishing P2, Red Bull. Very strong lap to put that car on pole position. And then as soon as Piastri got that good run, it was always going to be a gamble with the stewards to see if he was going to get penalized or not. I think if he, avoids the penalty, if he passes that position to Piastri voluntarily, I think that's race done for him. And we saw it later in the race that it was clear McLaren just had the pace in clean air to keep Verstappen at bay. He didn't have the pace in order to catch and re-overtake. So I think it was the right choice to just try and stay out front, stay in the clean air. If he gets, gets fortunate on the way the stewards rule it and he gets no penalty and it's no further action because it's lap 1, turn 1, then I think he probably is able to drive and win that race. But as it turns, I think he made the good result there. What do we got up next? Yuki, a decent start to the weekend, got himself into Q3, but unfortunately we really didn't get to see what he was capable of in the race. Lap 1 incident with Pierre Gasly took them both out of the race and made it just kind of one Red Bull. I don't know that he would have necessarily gotten far through the pack, realistically, just the way it is, the way overtaking was around there. But I think he was well on for some points and a top 10 finish there. He's slowly finding the grip of the car. He's getting a little more comfortable with it, it seems. We'll see where he's at this week in Miami. And we'll also have to kind of wait and see where the Red Bull is at here in Miami. Obviously, Max had a fantastic drive winning in Japan, a track with a lot of high speed, high downforce corners. Same with Jeddah, high speed track, not a lot of low and mid speed corners. Miami has a couple high speed, but there is a lot of low and mid speed corners around this track. So we'll see if Red Bull has actually, made some steps with the car and the setup. I know the setup has been quite finicky with that, or if it was being flattered by, a Jeddah track that kind of suits the characteristics of the car. So that'll be interesting to see this race weekend as well. Ferrari, next up, Leclerc, fantastic race from him for his first podium of the season, I believe it is. Really drove well, kept, especially in that last phase, keeping Lando Norris at bay in that McLaren that was hard charging. Realistically, once Norris got past everybody, past Hamilton, past George, past Antonelli, Leclerc picked up his pace and was pretty close to matching Norris's times in a lot of the laps. When it got kind of to the tail end, he was dropping some time, but he looked to be managing that gap quite well. So a good result for Leclerc. Great to see him on the podium. The Ferrari can be a decent car, and I think when it finds the right setup window, I still think they're having to run that car pretty high off the ground and not in its ideal aero window, which makes it a little more unpredictable. Leclerc, though, handling it pretty well. On the other side of the garage, Hamilton, probably one of his worst Ferrari weekends. He was just kind of substantially off Leclerc's pace at every phase of the race. I know they were on alternating strategies, but most of the races so far this season, I've seen patches of lap times where Hamilton's, may not be up in the same positions that Leclerc is, but when they both have clean air, would turn similar lap times. Obviously, mistakes would be made. He would lose some time. That's been his biggest problem. But Saudi Arabia, he was just off the pace across the board. He did well to kind of, to finish where he started. Obviously, though, the 2022 regulations have not been very kind to Lewis Hamilton. He's not really got on with the cars in general. And Jeddah, especially on this generation of car, has not been his favorite, it would appear. So that's Ferrari as they ran. A 5-6 for Mercedes. Still a decent day for them. I know they both lost kind of the expected position. Antonelli only dropped one position from his start. We kind of expected Norris to come through and move him down. George, though, I don't think was expecting to finish behind Leclerc, but I believe he had some issues with the car late on as well. But it just didn't seem like the Mercedes quite had the overall pace that it usually did. I mean, still plenty fine to stay ahead of Hamilton. He did Hamilton did make quite the charge at the end, trying to catch up to Antonelli, but it looks like he ran out of gas towards the end and stalled out, finishing a handful of seconds back of them. But still, 2 middle points finishes for Mercedes, keeping both cars in there. I think George Russell still is the only driver to finish every race in the top 5. So he's having a pretty good year so far. And, Mercedes is looking to be a pretty decent car. Next car, we're looking at Williams. Double points finish for them, P8, P9, back-to-back. So a good result for them. Carlos Sainz, especially, qualified well, got shuffled back, but finished ahead of his teammate for the first time. So Albon, though, disappointing in his qualifying. I think he started 4 positions back of 3 or 4 positions back of Sainz, but rallied quite well to get within the DRS range of his teammate, which was critical at the end for that double points finish, and especially as they had to work together to hold off some extra points for the Racing Bulls team, Isaac Hadjar. But at this stage, I mean, they look to be Williams is starting to look like the top of that midfield group. So once you take the top 4 teams out, the Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull team, it's looking like Williams is starting to develop that car and get it up towards that top of the midfield. And they've got a good, strong driver pairing, so looking forward to seeing if that car continues to develop over the year, if they can get a little closer to those top 4. Next up, obviously just mentioned him, Isaac Hadjar in the Racing Bulls. A P10 finish for him, so a point for Isaac, a good drive for him. Was out-qualified by his teammate, Liam Lawson, but based on race strategy and how it went, I think Hadjar just had the race pace overall. He only ended up finishing about a second ahead of his teammate, but a lot of that was due to, the DRS train that he was caught up in, as Carlos Sainz was giving Albon the DRS, so it made it so Hadjar could not pass them. Liam Lawson, I want to give a shout out to him. Qualifying ahead of Hadjar was important, but more important was putting together a kind of complete weekend, finishing, just behind his teammate on track. So you'd like to believe that's kind of where the car is at. Confident weekend, made some overtakes to get there. So hopefully this is, the sign of some rebound and getting his head back together. Obviously losing that Red Bull drive, tough on him, and he had a couple pretty rough race weekends after being demoted down to the RB team. So let's see if Liam Lawson can get it together and continue to challenge his rookie teammate Isaac Hadjar at this point. Next up, we've got Aston Martin. So Fernando Alonso made it into Q2 in the Aston, but the Aston not looking all that great, honestly. Continues to just kind of be mediocre all around, and much like them and Sauber, it's going to be kind of a broken record of it's an unremarkable car at this stage. I know they've got Adrian Newey working on the 2026 car. Realistically, what are they really trying to accomplish with the 2025 car? Maybe they can get something going in the later parts of the year. I mean, Alonso getting into Q2 is pretty important, but Stroll, not very impressive on his runs. And it just looks like the car's just not quite there. Haas, after a few pretty strong race weekends, had kind of a moderate dud. Both cars outside of the points. Behrman, again, out-qualifying and outscoring, well, not outscoring, but finishing ahead of his very experienced teammate, Esteban Ocon. That being said, Ocon was one of the drivers that pitted after the lap 1 safety car and went the entire way on the hard tires, so I wouldn't expect really there was going to be any kind of result in hand for him. So he did decently well to even stick, near his teammate. We'll see if Haas is able to bounce back in what is essentially a home race here. Sauber next up. Nico Hülkenberg, obviously the broken record analogy continues. Sauber, just kind of realistically, I think they're just holding until the Audi partnership kicks in next year and Audi takes over. I don't know that they're going to put hardly any resources into this 2025 car. Nico Hülkenberg driving decently, is in a good position. Gabriel Bortoleto, though, he's really just not looking all that great. Started dead last in this one. Both cars out in Q1, and Bortoleto, I think, finished last car running. So he really didn't impact hardly anything in the race. And the last team we'll talk about is Alpine. Jack Doohan, the only finisher for the Alpine team after the lap 1 collision between Tsunoda and Gasly, which is unfortunate because Pierre Gasly, an impressive result to put that Alpine into the top 10 into Q3 and then kind of have it all go away. I think, if you're asking me, I think it was kind of an ambitious lap 1 move by Gasly to try and go around the outside of such a tight corner, turn 4, and that was race done. Alpine, there's something in that car. There's potential there. Gasly has brought it out a couple of times. Jack Doohan, I think, needs to have a couple of weekends strung together where he looks like he's challenging Gasly, which is tough because he's got the specter of Franco Colapinto just kind of sitting over his shoulder. But that'll do it for kind of the Jeddah recap, and perfect timing as we're pulling around the last couple of corners to take a look at the Miami International Autodrome, what they call it. So, interesting one. If you're way at the back, you start on a bit of a curve. But right here next to the Hard Rock Stadium, we'll pull into the P1 grid box and get ready for the relatively short run down to turn 1. We have seen action down into turn 1 before, but it's going to be an interesting way to get off the line because once you get down to turn 1, spot your braking point, you have this right, left, right combo of corners. So we typically see drivers go up the inside of turn 1, try and kind of squeeze out the car as it transitions to the left, and then your high speed for the right-hander. Then you get through this kind of single lane follow-through area. Very high speed. I think the Red Bull will go decently here based on its characteristics as you sweep through the left-hander, right-hander. One thing with this left-hander here in the game, there's this pretty big curve here. You're going to see drivers most likely get right over here because in real life, it's completely flat there. Next, we head up to one of the harder corners, I think, on the entire calendar, personally. So hard to spot a braking point because you're turning and braking when I'm at a higher speed. You'll really see the challenge, but you're pitching in, and then you're on the throttle. There was an incident between Lando and Gasly a couple of years ago here as it kind of sweeps left and right and tightens up. So be careful if you're trying to make that move into that left-hander. Then you're down what is technically the second of the DRS zones, but probably one of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit. There's two really, really good ones, but really heavy braking zone here for turn 12, I believe it is. And again, you get to the inside and you kind of just shuffle the other car off the outside. Now you get this kind of awkward section of track in the middle sector. This high walls, this tight right and left-hander, and then you've got this very difficult chicane to navigate at speed. The car gets very unsettled and you're just kind of constantly fighting to get the front end to turn in on that section of the track. Next up, you're headed to another great overtaking opportunity. Again, DRS as you blast down. Really good straightaway here into a very heavy braking zone, sharp hairpin, and you got to find that braking point. And it is a little tough, at least in the game, to get the traction down on this slow corner. And then you're through these combination of sweepers to finish out the lap before you open the DRS one more time. So that's kind of the navigation around the circuit here. We'll pick up the pace a little bit as we talk about the tires. So Miami, since it's been on the calendar, 22, 23, and 2024, has often gone with the middle range of tire hardness. They've gone the C2, the C3, and C4. And it's been a pretty consistent one-stop, medium on to hard. Of course, safety cars have mixed things up, or hard on to medium. Safety cars have mixed up the strategy based on when they've come out. But otherwise, it's not a highly abrasive surface. It's not super high G-loading and putting a lot through the tires and putting a lot of strain on them. So it was pretty much a standard bang-on one-stop. This year, they have brought the C3, C4, C5 combination. So they've gone one step softer. They've made the adjustment. So, you know, last year's mediums is now this year's hards. We've seen pretty good two-stops around the tracks that have gone to the C3, C4, C5 combinations. So I'm looking forward. This year, we should likely see that two-stop strategy. It'll depend on if you can conserve the tires in a one-stop without losing too much pace. And of course, the potential for safety cars and other such things. So look out for that. Of course, talking of Miami just in general, was the site last year of Lando Norris's first win, so he's got some good vibes around here. But we will see. I think the McLaren has obviously taken a pretty substantial step forward. I think it should be easily the best car around this track. But it's going to be the battle between Norris and Piastri that's going to be the important thing to look for. We'll see how the Red Bull comes good if it develops. Obviously, I'm always looking to see what Yuki Tsunoda can do. George Russell has typically gone pretty decently around this track as well. So I would, you know, if the Mercedes is working the way it has for most of the season, I would expect to see that probably that quiet George podium again, as he's done so many times already this season, to where you just kind of don't really see much of him and he sneaks onto the podium. And lastly, lots of special liveries are going to be in effect. I know Sauber, the Racing Bulls, Mercedes has special team kit. So we'll see what everybody's got. So let's go for a quick lap here. So opening up the DRS and headed down. We're looking to the start of this curbing, kind of get the car brake, turn in for turn one, leave a little bit of room to sweep. And then once we can see this exit, get the power down and let the car kind of track out through turn three. We're looking to this light box on the left side, a little dab of brakes, downshift, get the car rotated, another little dab of brakes. You'll take a lot more of this curb in real life, but now turn 7, which is just, well, where do you brake? And you're braking and turning, and it's so easy to lock that front left tire. You see I lost actually quite a bit of time to the delta there. Now, a bit of a chance to breathe as you just kind of meander your way through these curves, this big, long, left-handed sweeper. And we're going to look for just ahead of the 100-meter board, get our brakes and anchors out, a little bit of a lockup on the front left. And now into this slow section, hug the wall on the right, try and get the power down as we come, and now take a lot of this apex curb at the top, and then really fight the understeer as you get the car into that last left-hander. Get yourself on the power and sort it out for the last big run. Open up that DRS one more time. And we're going to look for about 125 meters, the braking point here. And we've locked up the rears and had to save the car. And now get on the power. So huge amount of time loss on that mistake at the end. But there's a semi-quick lap around Miami. Let's see if we can do just a little bit better. Found about 2/10 through the first 3 corners there this time. Pretty early on the brakes, a little tighter line, just trying to ensure that I hold it. Really the most optimal line is to go wider, but that by going tight there, it helps straighten the braking out a little bit more, so you have a little bit more pressure on the brakes. So now into the middle sector here. Oh, and invalid lap time. Well, we were on for a good one, but you see the way the front end just kind of chunders away from you. So it's a tricky track. We will see what drivers can do. Of course, the walls are always a looming threat in qualifying. So we'll see what we got for it. Ew, totally even forgot to mention, it's a sprint weekend. So keep an eye on the schedule, a little bit different than a typical weekend. So we've got obviously one practice session, then sprint qualifying on Friday. And then you've got the sprint race and Grand Prix qualifying on Saturday and the Grand Prix on Sunday. So, you know, another tricky bit as teams try and get their cars set up. Sprint weekends are always tough to get it dialed in at. Now I'm really just trying to beat my best lap time, which wasn't a great lap time. I mean, 28.3, but yeah, sprint weekends typically are going to benefit the team that can figure out how to set up their car quickly. Red Bull has typically struggled a little bit when it comes to limited running, especially with the way their car is struggling these days to get in the right setup window with it being hard to drive. So we'll see if they can sort that thing out. See, now this video is going long just because I'm trying to have fun here. But hey, the race is also at more America-friendly times, naturally. So look forward to that as well. Try and get that wheel straight as soon as we can. And there we go. There's a good lap to end it on. Found 3/10, got into the 27s. 51,000th in the world. But I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.